Hello! So today I'm going to be showing off two of our fantasy bookshelves. These are the ones out in the main room for guests to see. They are the big authors in fantasy, so I have Brandon Sanderson books and Tolkien books and George R. R. Martin and a bunch of other really cool fantasy books too, The Witcher, the Dresden Files, things like that. And I want to show how I display them and show you guys sort of my methods for evoking a fantasy theme around these fantasy books. So I hope you enjoy. To help set the fantasy mood in this corner, first I want to go over some of the wall art. This right here is a unicorn tapestry that is actually a canvas print. I think it's 36 by 24 from Amazon. This is another of those canvas prints. I believe I got the canvas print itself on Amazon from around $50. And then over here, I have these two swords, a bit more expensive than that. I have Anduril and Herogrim, the swords of Aragorn and Theoden. And then on top of the shelves, I have a few dragons, as you can see. There are some things missing from up here right now, but most of these dragons are Dungeons and Dragons figures, with a few exceptions. This castle I found on Marketplace, and I painted on some of the green moss. This Drogon right here I got on eBay, and he was not an official dragon from Game of Thrones, not an official sculpt at least, but he was a 3D printable file that someone ended up making molds for and doing all the paintwork and everything for him. So I bought him off of eBay. This is an official Weta piece. It is Gandalf on one of the eagles. You can see this a little bit closer. And then here are some of the D&D dragons that have riders, because on the other side, most of these dragons do not have riders. I don't think any of them do. The way that I'm lighting them here is just simple strip lights that are plugged into the back, and that also continue over on the edges of the furniture to give it that sort of magical look. And then on top of this shelf is mostly D&D dragons, except for two of them, which are the House of the Dragon dragons. There's Cyrax right there, and Caraxes. And I think the lighting looks pretty cool on them. The rest are all D&D dragons. And then up here, lastly for the wall art in this section, is this sign which we made with the laser cutter and me painting quite a bit of it for a party earlier this year. And now it is wall art. And then we have our knight in not so shining armor, but a shining face. There's a hue light bulb in his head, and we have taped the inside where you normally would see through this. There's actually tape on the inside, which makes it so that the light itself can be diffused and distributed more evenly. Oh, and he has a little dragon here. All right, so on to the main event. So I will be going down each of the shelves here and talking about what is on each one. First up is this top shelf, which is the Stormlight Archive shelf. So on this shelf, you might notice a few things. One, we have the 4 main novels for the Stormlight Archive, and they are being displayed without their dust jackets because I just like seeing them this way better. That's a personal preference. Next, we have this Kickstarter statue of Kaladin versus Szeth. And what's fun about it is because it comes in 2 pieces, you can have them positioned in a way where you actually don't have them fighting each other. One, you can have them on either side of a bookshelf, sort of going towards each other this way. Another way that you can have them is actually facing outward from each other, as if they're maybe fighting on the same side. And then on this side over here, I have the novellas Edge Dancer and Dawn Shard, as well as the Way of Kings volumes 1 and 2 of the leather-bound editions. This little Oathbringer bottle opener, which I also got from a Kickstarter campaign, as well as this Wit Challenge coin. And over on the side here, this is just something that I made years ago, which is a bunch of Bridge 4 buttons. A few friends of mine went with me to the Oathbringer signing when it first came out, and we all wore these little buttons. I usually give them to everyone who I befriend, who might come to my house, and if they notice the Stormlight Archive books and say, wow, I love that series, I have a bunch of these buttons left, and I will go grab one for them and say, here you go, here's a Bridge 4 pin, and almost everyone loves that. So I ordered a bunch years ago, and I still have some. They're a joy. And then next down here, unfortunately, I've had to make more space around the house for a couple other things, so my Lord of the Rings and A Song of Ice and Fire main little collections here have had to share a shelf, unfortunately. But I do plan to give the Lord of the Rings back an entire shelf at some point, as well as Song of Ice and Fire, because I have all of the other hardcover books. I'm just displaying the special editions right now, and then of course the extended editions of the Lord of the Rings. But what's interesting on this shelf is, one, my leather-bound Lord of the Rings copy, this little One Ring, a couple more of the One Ring. There's multiple One Rings. I really like this piece of labradorite, which I have decided looks just like a Palantir. So I put it on this shelf for now. There's the Minas Tirith that came with special editions of the films, and it is a little box. You can find those online, usually for a pretty reasonable price. Also, it has on either side these bookends, which I think look really nice. And those also came with special editions, but a different version of them. And I bought most of these years later after they were in production, because when they were in production, I was too young and I didn't really have that kind of money to spend. I have Aragorn's ring displayed down there for now, as well as this very cool piece. It is a pewter version of the Fellowship of the Ring. It's very rare to find it, and I was so happy when I found it. You can sometimes find it online, but it is very expensive. I actually found it, crazy enough, on Facebook Marketplace, and I immediately drove out there and was like, I need this. And then over on this side, we have the 3 first books of the Song of Ice and Fire series, as well as my favorite Game of Thrones bookends, which are these 2 dragon statues that are on either side of the front gate at Dragonstone. And then here's just a random cup that I put in there. It's not anything too crazy, but it was just sitting out in my house, and I was like, well, it has the swords, so I'm gonna pop it in there for now. This is one of the first things that we 3D printed with our 3D printer here, this little dragon, and I just ended up painting it to look like Drogon. And then moving down, one more shelf. I actually will be unboxing the next in this series very soon, because I ordered the leather-bound edition, which just came out about a month ago. And as you can see, this is my other Brandon Sanderson shelf. So I have the 3 Mistborn leather-bound editions of the Era 1 Mistborn series. I also have this first book, which is actually signed. I got signed at the Oathbringer signing. And also a hardcover of The Well of Ascension. Over here is the Elantris leather-bound, as well as a couple other little goodies from some Kickstarters, including this really fun Nightblood letter opener. Then the hardcover of Elantris, Arcanum Unbounded. And then over on this side we have 2 of the books from the Kickstarter. Don't worry, I have the other ones, they're just in other places in the house. Tress ended up looking much better in the loft, the fairy tale loft, because it's green and very cute. And the wizard book is actually in the sci-fi area. And then Alloy of Law with Shadows of Self. And that's that shelf. I do actually have a lot more Brandon Sanderson stuff, but I think it would look a little bit too crowded, so I've kept it to those things for now. But I always change out my bookshelves. Down here, along with these pillows, are a bunch of my other books, which I would like to be able to display better, but I'll go through some of them. This is the Crescent City series by Sarah J. Maas, and these are special covers by someone on Etsy. These dust jackets are really cool. I like the soft finish while also having all out of the foil, and they have a quote on the back. So each one has that look, and I decided to recover my books with them because they match the shelf a bit better. I have 2 of the Witcher illustrated books down there, and then a couple versions of The Name of the Wind, one right there, and then the Wise Man's Sphere next to it, and then this special version, which has a very cool cover. And I do want to get the second book with this cover because I think it's pretty awesome. This is a UK edition, and that's how I found it on eBay. And then there's also The Last Unicorn here and The Way Home, both by Peter S. Beagle. And then a couple George R. R. Martin books, which is the Fire Cannot Kill a Dragon. That's actually about his books, not by him, but it's all about the Targaryen line, as well as A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, which was by him, and I enjoyed that story. Then there's the first book in the Wheel of Time series by Robert Jordan, The Eye of the World. And then another George R. R. Martin book, Fire and Blood, which is the history of the Targaryens as written by him, which I enjoyed. And then lastly on this side is the Lightbringer series by Brent Weeks. And that's all of those together, so a lot of fantasy books. Unfortunately, the top 2 little tines of my throne broke, but I have them and I will be super gluing them back on. I have done so in the past. That thing breaks very easily, but I love it. So that's that whole first shelf, which are pretty much all my books. This second shelf actually features a lot of books, both from myself and my partner. This top shelf is actually all just mine, though. The first thing here is this Fairy Loot edition of Fourth Wing. I just really love this cover, and I wanted to see it, so I display it here because it's perfect in the lighting. And I'll show you what the lighting looks like on the other side of this. It's very ugly to look at it that way. You can see these big old shelves here, so that's the lighting in there. But when you look at it out here, it's not so bad. And then the other book that is displayed on the other side is actually the first book in the Dresden Files. It's Stormfront by Jim Butcher. And this is the leather-bound edition. It is also signed. think it's by Easton Press. I love getting their little catalogs in the mail. And then over here, we have some of my hardcovers from the Dresden Files as well, on both sides. I don't have the entire collection. Some of them are pretty expensive, and I started collecting them a little late. And then here is this statue of Harry Dresden himself. And what's fun about it is that the fire is a cool little see-through piece. Then on either side here, I have a couple more dragon bookends. I have a lot of very cool sculptural bookends, and I love being able to display them. And then these little top books that are kind of making little shelves are just The Count of Monte Cristo and Great Expectations, two classics. And I decided to put the wands that we have some Harry Potter wands, or blasting rods, as Dresden likes to call them. And I painted all of these, or almost all of these. And this I actually made for a wizard-themed party years ago. And I did a little tutorial on how to make your own little wand. And so that's that first shelf. Down here on the second shelf, we have a mix of both mine and my partner's things. These D&D figures are my partner's, and I really like them, so I thought they'd be cool to display. I ended up putting these little cave dragons down underneath this shelf, because as you can see, if you have shelves that are this tall, it's kind of tough to try to find books that will look good on there. And so having a little riser in the shelf was nice. I was able to add some of his art books up here. And then this is my Dragonology book, as well as my Book of the Dragon by Sorello, which my mom got me years ago at Comic-Con and had signed by the artist. And this is the first McFarlane dragon I ever got, probably back when I was 11 or something. And I like keeping it displayed out here. So that's that shelf. Oh, right. These are all these Destiny books, which are creating a little platform as well. So I like to try to vary heights of things. As you may have noticed in a lot of my designs here, I use books as little risers to help give some extra interest to shelves. And I think that works pretty well, at least for me. And last but not least is this bottom shelf here, which is entirely books, well, except for this Rise of the Dragon one, entirely books that all belong to my partner. So these are a lot more gaming books, except for the Sandman here, which is volume 3. We do have volumes 1 and 2. They're just in a storage container and we need to get them out. But on this side, we have a Witcher statue. And then here is, I think this opens. Does it? Yes, it does. Yeah, so you have a little mimic box. And then this right here is another little D&D critter. And on this side is a Berserk character statue. And behind him is the ultimate guide to rebuilding civilization. So that's a whole crazy book behind him, and it has a lot of very fun illustrations and information. And that is all of these shelves. So I'll back it up. And here we go. One last view of this little wall. This is just one like half wall in this house. So as you can see, there's a lot for me to go through and show. And I think it's going to be really fun doing tours of the house, but I'm definitely going to be breaking it down quite a bit because there's just so much to show. Thanks so much for watching, and, you know, do the thing, the subscribe and like thing or whatever. I don't know how to be a YouTuber. But if you enjoyed this stuff, just, let me know. I mean, I love reading the comments. I read all of them. So thanks so much, everyone. And until next time.